On this day in 1970, fighting on the terraces marred a 7-0 Celtic victory in the European Cup over Waterford at Lansdowne Road. It was all set up to be a thoroughly pleasant experience when Celtic were drawn against League of Ireland champions Waterford in the second round of the European Cup in October 1970. The Celtic party arrived at Dublin Airport a couple of hours late the day before the game after their charter plane was delayed on the way to Glasgow to a hero's welcome. There was a similar raucous reception awaiting them at the Gresham Hotel in Dublin. The only downer for Irish fans was the late omission of Jimmy Johnston, who was struggling with a leg strain and was being saved for the weekend's League Cup final against Rangers. Only 6 Lisbon Lions were in the travelling party, although this would be 7 if you included Ronnie Simpson, who had retired earlier that year but was brought along as a guest of the club. Before a crowd of almost 50,000 at Lansdowne Road, Celtic lined up Williams, Craig, Quinn, Murdoch, McNeil, Hay, Connolly, Macari, Wallace, Hood, Lennox, subs, Fallon, Dalglish, Chalmers, Davidson. Waterford took kick-off, but it took Celtic only 10 seconds to open the scoring. Bobby Lennox intercepting a pass and teeing up Willie Wallace to slot it home before Waterford had even been in the Celtic half. The Irish champions rallied from there and put Celtic under pressure for 10 minutes, but the visitors went 2 ahead on 17 minutes, Lou Macari backheeling a low corner from Harry Hood into the net. Bobby Murdoch then scored 2 in 3 minutes, the second a thundering long-range drive to end the tie as a contest after only 28 minutes. By this time, there were already fans spilling out of the terracing to escape fighting amongst Celtic fans behind the Waterford goal. Jim Parkinson wrote in the Glasgow Herald on the 22nd of October 1970, "During the first half, rival factions of youths fought running battles for 25 minutes, throwing bottles, wielding flagpoles and other cudgels, and punching and booting each other in a near riot. As frightened children and other spectators scrambled and threw themselves over the waist-high barrier onto the grass behind the Waterford goal, the local Garda and ground stewards stood and watched." Only after reinforcements had been summoned did the Garda attempt to separate the combatants, but they later announced there had been no arrests, while 3 people were taken to hospital after being hit by beer bottles. Parkinson went on, "I saw one youth wield a cudgel and break it over another boy's head. Then another youth was viciously assaulted and kicked almost into semi-consciousness before being dragged away by other members of his gang." He described the scenes as one of the ugliest football incidents in recent years. In contrast, Malcolm Munro in the Evening Times that day almost seemed to think it was enormous fun, writing, "Apparently, rival factions of Celtic supporters from the north fell out and the fighting spread out all over the one end of the terracing. Man, it was something. You name it, they used it. Then we had the astonishing sight of a burly lone figure who had been an innocent bystander, grabbing a pick handle from an assailant and, in the best John Wayne style, clearing the fighting mob single-handed. Watched, let it be said, by the admiring police. Thought, who takes pick handles to football matches?" The fighting continued all through half-time, and the Danish referee, Kai Rasmussen, had it announced over the loudspeakers that the match would be abandoned if the pitch was not cleared. 5 minutes behind schedule, the second half kicked off and Celtic scored another 3. Wallace grabbed 2 in quick succession before being substituted by Vic Davidson on 57 minutes, and Lou Macari grabbed another 4 minutes from time to seal a 7-0 win. Malcolm Munro was suitably impressed by the youngster, writing, "The second half proved this much, that in Lou Macari, Celtic's got a real dilly. Cheeky, confident, game, he was prepared to do a lot of running, and several times only the fatalistic Thomas, who probably would have been safer up on the terracing, prevented him from scoring the proverbial barrow load." The game was overshadowed by the crowd trouble, which it was suggested was between local Celtic fans and fans from the north. But it was yet another impressive performance by Celtic, who had now scored 21 goals in just 3 European Cup matches that season. Despite clinching their 5th league title in a row, 1970 had not turned out to be a great calendar year for Celtic though, and more disappointments were just around the corner.